Right. If anyone is in the stream, I'm just going to do a quick sound test just to make sure that the sound is coming through, so bear with me. Right. There we go. We're okay. Sound is coming through, so hopefully everyone's okay. And good afternoon to my usual regular down on the farm. Hopefully you're well. And excuse me, anybody else that, as I say, may well be in the stream, feel free to say hi. So as you can see, we're going to be doing a little bit of old school ploughing today. Now with me eye, I've tried to split this field right down the middle, but yeah, you know, the chances of me being able to do that with me eye are not very good, but we'll make a job of it. But I've decided to do it because normally what I would do is, if I was recording this for an episode, what I would actually do is plough from side to side and then sort of kind of meet in the middle and call it a draw. But just because I sort of was going to do it that way anyway, because that was, I kind of feel, the right way to do it. But I sort of kind of then realised that actually most of the stream would just be me driving from one side of the field to the other. So I thought, no, I'll do it this way. I'll divide it up and we'll try and go from there. I think I've gone a bit wonky, which is not very good. But never mind. Yeah, I think I've gone a bit wonky. I've come off my line. So as you can see, this field was potatoes, but it wasn't my field of potatoes. I purchased the field at the end of oh, that's a bit far. That's a bit far. Oh, I've ruined it now. Oh, we'll have to leave it. That's a bit far. That's going to be a big headland. Never mind. Right, what we'll do is we'll turn round. It's not easy to turn this around, hence the reason why I do quite like going from one side to the other and doing it that way. But we'll then swing the crawl around, and then we'll drop it in there, and hopefully we should be okay. I didn't realise there was such a steep hill in this field. We may well have a little bit of trouble. Look at the tracks spinning. That's pretty funny. Good afternoon, Clove Dairy. Thanks very much for joining me here in the stream this afternoon. I mean, obviously, first things first is this is FS22, just so there's no confusion. But my thoughts on FS25. The game for me, when it was first released, wasn't finished. It wasn't anywhere near to the standard of what a game should be for the money they charged. That's my honest opinion. Subsequent patches before Christmas would fix one thing, break another. We're now in March, and I think now the game probably is worth buying. I mean, obviously those sorts of things are always down to personal opinion anyway. You know, and sort of how you feel about the game, but I am beginning to really like FS25 now. I think there's some really great maps available for it now. depending on sort of your map style, whether it be, you know, American or European or UK or, you know, sort of whatever. But I think there's some really good maps available for it now. There's more good maps coming. We've got Whitcomb Park Farm coming at some point over the next few weeks to a month. I mean, I don't know, I'm not sort of privy to any of the information on that map in particular, but it is, you know, it's not, apparently it's quite close to being released and what have you, so that's pretty cool. You've got Fen Edge, that's coming to FS25, which I believe at the moment is currently at Giants for testing. So if it doesn't come out on the mod hub, I would be sure to look out for the itch.io page of Red Dog Modding. That's not easy to say, that isn't on as I say, itch.io. So yeah, my thoughts, FS25, just sort of for me, like I say, I'm beginning to really enjoy the game now. Obviously there's a new DLC that's been announced. I've got to be honest, I'm not really interested in it myself, but again, you know, it doesn't sort of suit what I do on the game, so that's the only reason. It's not a quality issue or anything like that. You know, I've got most of last year's DLCs that came out, the next set, the Prairie Farm one, and stuff like that, and they're really good additions. I really enjoy them. Don't tend to use the Nexat equipment much in my series, but I have used it a little bit sort of in my own saves, you know, when I'm just sort of playing in the evening, knocking about. So that's quite good. So yeah, I think overall now it's becoming a much better game. A lot of the issues that were in the game, I think, are probably now resolved. So the game itself, you know, is not at a bad standard now. And like I say, with all the great mods that are coming out now, you know, if you think it's worth, you know, the money, then by all means. And if you enjoy farming sim, I think, you know, I think if it's the type of game that you enjoy and would play sort of normality, then yeah, why not? Yeah, so it is quite a bit. I mean, FS22 I still love anyway, and like I say, you're getting quite a bit of enjoyment out of it as well. You know, I still very regularly play Vintage Oaks on FS22. Obviously this save is on FS22. You know, one or two people have sort of kind of asked if I could port it over to FS25, but it was this game and this series that made my channel, so I think I'm going to be sticking fairly loyal to it, to be fair, although this map is available for FS25 now. So I say this particular map is now available on FS25. Yeah, I know how you feel with the amount of owls, mate. I mean, you know, sad but true. I mean, obviously because of the way life is for me, but I sort of get up in the morning at probably about, I don't know, usually between sort of 7, half 7, and the PC goes on, check my emails, check YouTube, and then, you know, Farming Sim gets loaded up, and then I'm on it all day then, until I go to bed, usually at around about 11 to midnight, something like that. So yeah, and I kind of know how it, you know, sort of is. And for some of the players and some of the people that I talk to that work as well, and they're still putting in the, and I think, crikey, I mean, back in the day when I was able to work, it was obviously winter, spring, probably I would have more than enough time to put some hours in on the game. But come the summer and autumn, like I say, I was getting home from work at sort of 2, 3 in the morning, and yeah, bed, and then straight up again, straight for work again. So, but yeah, FS22 is a really easy game to sink a lot of hours into. It's just, I don't know, it's a game that Giants got right. I know a lot of people say that FS17 is probably the best version of the game. I mean, I liked 17. It was a good game, but I do think that for me personally, FS19 and FS22 is probably where the game peaked for me. But like I say, I do like the new features in FS25, or the new crops in FS25, I should say. The onions, the peas, the green beans, and the spinach and stuff like that. The farm that I worked on was a mix between veg and arable. There was dairy as well. There was another side of the business. Didn't really have a great deal to do with the dairy side. The arable side, yeah, because obviously my job was ploughing. So arable and veg side, like I say, between the two of them, they were able to keep me ploughing for most of the year. But yeah, FS22 is just, for me, a game they got right in a lot of instances, and in a lot of ways as well. The one thing I will say about FS25 that I really like, and I am a massive fan of, is the new helper system. It had a few little niggles when the game first released, which is fair enough, because it was a completely sort of rebuild of the AI and the way that it was done on the game. But now, the fact that I can sit on my tractor and via the new AI system, and this is no mods, this is just base game technology, if you like. I can't think of the word, but it's just purely base game. I can sit on my tractor anywhere on the map, and I can control my workers, and I can tell, and as long as the map's set up for it. I mean, that is the other thing, the map does need to be set up in terms of splines for field to field, but as long as the map's set up for it, and I've found that most maps are, I've not come across a map yet that hasn't really been set up for it. So you can sit on your tractor. I mean, you can't really do it in FS22, but you'd sit on your tractor, and let's just say that was the helper menu. You click on it like that, and then a window comes up here, and then you just go to create job, and then you select the target. You would then click it. I always click it on the center of the field, and then from there you just press start, or what, I can't remember what the wording is, but you press the start, say, and if your tractor is in this field, it will then pick up the lane, come down the lane, and then drive itself, do that field, tell you it's finished, and then you can literally, you don't have to tab into that tractor or anything. You can just sit on your tractor doing your thing, and then just move it, and then move it to this field if you want to. And honestly, like, for me, that has been the biggest game changer that Giants have done. And the fact that they'll do every single field, and they'll do the headlands, they'll do the lot, they'll sort themselves out. I've never had an issue with them crashing. I mean, as anyone that knows me knows, I do tend to get rid of the trees on maps. I hate trees. But for the maps that I do use, so for example, Saxlingham is the one I can think off the top of my head. I can't think of another one that I sort of only really play on two maps really on FS, and that's Saxlingham and the Cheeky Badger map. which from my Ground Up series is based on. Montana Multi-Fruit, I play that quite a bit as well, and that's quite a lot of trees on there, and they don't tend to crash into the trees on there, and they'll go round and they won't miss any bits on the headland either. And if you've got a combine that's that is on that field doing that job for you, as long as you've got auto drive, the in-game Giants helper and auto drive will work together, and again I get very few issues. I do tend to allow the in-game helper to do the headlands because he doesn't miss any, and then I will switch that tractor over, or that combine or whatever, over then to course play, usually the combines, because course play handles unloading a little bit better than what the in-game ones. I mean, the in-game ones do it and it's fine, but again it sort of comes down to preference and a little bit of routine really, sort of how you get used to doing it. But yeah, the new in-game helper, I think on FS, I think is absolutely brilliant. I think they did a brilliant job on that. And like I say, the rest of the game now, they are getting sorted. I don't have half of the graphical glitches and stuff that I used to get. Like for example, when you used to harvest the wheat, when you was a little bit away from the straw that you trailed with the combine, it would look green until you got right up to it, and then it would change back to the straw colour. But from a little bit of a distance, it was just green rows going up and down the field. You don't get none of that no more. Well, I certainly don't. But again, like you, I've bought myself. I shelled out for a new PC, and whether that had anything to do with it or not, I don't know. But yeah, that's sort of what I think. It's a bit of a long-winded answer to your question now. I do apologise. Boy oh boy, is this crawler struggling with this hill. I think perhaps I should have, mind you, if I'd have gone, well, it wouldn't matter actually on farm sim, I could have gone sideways across it. It would have made it a bit easier for the tractor, but in real life you definitely wouldn't, because you wouldn't want the tractor to tipple over. It was never a problem farming on our farm or on the farms around where I live, but if I used to go contract ploughing in like Derbyshire or Nottinghamshire or anywhere like that, you really, when you got to the field, I used to have a really good sort of walk across the field just to sort of kind of see how the lay of the land was, because I definitely didn't want to be rolling my Challenger, and some of those fields were quite steep as well. And as well, when you get into sort of what I call late Cambridgeshire, early sort of Essex and like that, there's quite big hills there as well. So yeah, I used to sort of have a good look around and really make sure that I wasn't going to be rolling off anywhere. I don't think my bosses would have been too impressed if I'd have rung them and said, by the way, I've just rolled your Challenger down a hill. I know one thing, they wouldn't ask me how I was, they'd want to know all about the tractor. We are leaving a little bit too big of a headland really. That's going to be quite awkward, but we are ploughing it thankfully quite straight, so And again, because it's 1950s, there's no GPS or anything like that in use. Just sort of plough it all by eye, really. That's pretty much how I used to plough at work, by eye. Very rarely used my GPS. The only time I would use GPS is if the field was coming carrots or something like that, or potatoes or onions or something like that, and they wanted the wheelings in exactly the same place for every stage, and then I'd use GPS because I'm not that bloody good. So I'd have to use GPS then. So for ploughing veg fields, we used to have a 6 metre plough that would that obviously from front to back used to cover 6 metres, and that's how we would keep the tracks in the same place, because all the veg equipment was 6 metres. Yeah, all that equipment was 6 metres, so that's how we kept the tractors in the same wheelings. The powers, would have belt markers on them. Obviously they'd be using GPS as well, but they would all have belt markers on them, so that if the GPS went down, in theory you should still be able to drive in a straight line across the field. I think pretty much everything we had belt markers on, just because they were worried that the GPS signal would go down, and then they'd have drivers sort of guessing it across the field, and you don't really want to be guessing across the field. You sort of need to know that you're in the right place all of the time. I put that down way too late that time. I think the headland this end's getting wider and wider. But yeah, so we're gonna, as I say, we're getting this ploughed, and then this field is coming a spring crop, I think, because in the episode that went out on Monday, I asked whether the crop, sort of people's opinion on what crop we should have, and cotton did win, but I think I'm too. Oh, that's the shop. I don't want the shop. I think it's too late for cotton. I think I've missed cotton's window. Yeah, I have missed it by a month. So cotton is out of the question. But we could maybe go for sorghum, or let's have a look. Oats we could just about get away with. Corn, obviously we've got sunflowers, and soybeans, obviously we've got that as well. So we could go another field of soybeans, and might go sorghum, to be fair. It's a bit different, isn't it? It's a bit of a different crop, so I might go that, to be fair, and just kind of see what happens with that one. So what maps do you tend to play on FS22 Clove Dairy? What's your vibe, as the kids these days are saying? And anyone that knows me knows I'm definitely down with the kids. Jesus. But yeah, do you like the British maps, or are you more American? or sort of Eastern European. I'm hoping this field's not going to take too long to plough. I'm hoping that because the other I turned a bit too stunned there. I'm hoping that as I say, we should be able to get it done. I'm hoping in the games day, so April 2. I'm hoping we get it done today. That might be a tad optimistic, but obviously if we want to put sorghum in here, then we're going to need to hope that that it is completed today. Whether we put some helpers in here and start to get them going on cultivating and breaking this soil down, ready for me to drill. That might be an idea a bit later on, but for now we can at least get a good head on ploughing really. I do apologise if you keep hearing weird noises. About an hour ago I had my lunch, and either I had too much or I didn't have enough, but my tummy is still rumbling away. So I'm not sure, or whether my system is protesting at the very sugary donut that I had. I'm not sure. I went to the butcher's on the way home yesterday, and I called on the way home. I called into the butcher's, and I thought I'll get a nice because they make freshly made in front of you rolls, and I thought I'll have a nice hazelnut roll with me usual, which is tomato, cucumber, and onion and tomato sauce. And I thought I'll have 2 sausage rolls. I had a large roll, 2 sausage rolls, and I said to the girl, I said I'll have one of those 100,000 donut please as well. And she was like, okay. So anyway, I paid for them, and then the owner of the butcher's came out, and she said hello to me, and I was sort of obviously was had a brief chat with her, and then she'd wait there, and she went out the back. She came back with these big a tray of 6 sugary donuts, and said, would you like these? And so I had one for my lunch today, and it was very delicious. I do find it very much easier with this tractor ploughing in cab, so to speak. I know it hasn't got a cab on it, but you know what I mean. From the sea, I do find it easier to keep it straight from this view than from that view. I tend to over steer and overcorrect when I'm in that view, whereas this view I sort of seem to be a lot less inputty on the steering, which obviously really helps, because as I say, at work I used to really like to keep my ploughing straight, and it bothers me even more in game if I can't keep it straight. But so far so we may have turned a bit still again here. I even washed the crawler for today's live stream. How about that? Don't tend to wash my stuff all that often, but yeah, I even washed the crawler, and I fixed it all up as well. Oh no, I didn't. I'm sure I did. Oh, well, perhaps I didn't. But I washed it, and then I thought unless I went to do it, and then as usual James style, he got distracted by something else and believed he'd done it when actually he hadn't. The amount of times I get asked to do jobs, and then it's like, yeah, I've done it, and then or I go to do it and then get distracted by another job and come back in, and then it's like, have you done that? Yeah, I did it. Yeah. And then the next day they go outside, it's like, you didn't do that. You told me you did it. I was like, well, I'm sure I did. And then it's like, oh no, I ended up doing that, didn't I? Yeah, I'm terrible for that. I think boredom is what does it. I might be wrong. I think boredom tends to do it. Afternoon, Ricky. Thanks for joining us in the stream. That sounds pretty cool, to be honest with you, mate. That sounds pretty. I could definitely use it. Like I say, it's just a nightmare. Like I say, I was sure I did it, and then I sort of looked at my service bar down, and I was like, oh, it's still down halfway. I was like, I'm sure I did it. Perhaps not. I really appreciate it, mate. Thanks very much. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I think, as I said earlier, this field's probably going to take a while. But we haven't got too long to do it because we're running out of options with crops. But I at the end of the last episode, I think it was literally before I stopped recording, I was like, we need a new field, and so I bought this field. I didn't really look at how big it was or anything, and then it was kind of like, oh yeah, that's quite a big field to be fair. Yeah, so we're sort of trying to get it ploughed, to get it cropped. This field needs to be earning me some money back, so we're a bit full on today. So this is not normally the way that I do it in terms of ploughing. Normally I do from side to side, but I just sort of thought, well, the stream's literally going to be mainly me driving from one side of the field to the other, and I thought that's a bit crap. So I thought we'll eye it down the middle, and we'll just keep going round and round. This is how my granddad used to do it, to be fair. So yeah, back in the sort of 50s, 60s, 70s, and then about mid 80s, about 86, I think it was 86, 87. He did the field behind the house where I lived on the farm, and he walked it and measured it out, and then ploughed one breed down the centre, and then just went from side to side, round and round the centre one that he'd done, and it's quite interesting. I've never ploughed in real life this way before. I've always been an up and down man with the reversible. The Jimmy shimmy. I've gone wrong now, look. I've gone wide. Oh dear. I'm missing. Yeah, it's quite funny. The Jimmy shimmy. Yeah, that's probably, I think we may have done it that way. I can't really remember. Trouble is, it's a bloody long time ago. But I think that might have been the way when we joined two fields together. I think we ploughed round and round, but obviously we joined them via filling in a dike in the middle, and then, or that split the two fields, and I'm fairly certain that's how we, or I didn't plough it, but that was how it was done, which was round and round. But yeah, no, that's the reason why I decided to do it today, just because otherwise it's just going to be me driving from one side to the other with a little bit of ploughing in the middle. So I sort of did it this way. Originally I did it this way, and then PA Ploughboy, sort of, who watches my 1950 series, sort of said, well, actually we do it this way, and you'll find then that you won't that you'll only have one sort of shallow furrow, beg your pardon, down the middle. So it made a lot of sense, and that's why I started doing it that way, because I thought, well, that makes actually more sense. I just thought, oh, do you know what, for the purpose of the stream, we'll do it this way. I mean, as we get wider, we're still going to be driving the width, but yeah, so I just thought that would be the best way to do it. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. I know when I worked on Farm 2, they were in the process of either if we had fields that backed on, that didn't make the field an awkward shape, so it kind of sort of kept the squarish shape that they were always looking for, they would join it together. Or if we had fields where the field behind or the field to the side, or the fields around it were not our fields, they would try their hardest to buy the fields around, so that they could join them up. So that's definitely true. Again, didn't really get too involved in the joining up of fields and stuff. Sometimes, like if dikes needed to be filled in order for that to happen, sometimes I'd cart the soil, but I'd say it wasn't really, and that's only if I was looking, if I didn't have any ploughing or whatever, which wasn't very often, but did sometimes work that I would be waiting around for ploughing. But yeah. Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. Oh dear, I've gone really wrong this time. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. But yeah, that's probably not a bad idea actually, to resplit it. I mean, we could even, if we wanted to, because it doesn't really matter that much on farm sim, we could now go to the left hand side and plough this round and round, and then do the same the other side, split it and then plough that bit round and round, and then just do the end bit. I'm a bit annoyed about how wrong I've just gone. Yeah, it's amazing how many of the sort of older generation do get in touch with me and sort of say how much they enjoy the fact that someone's sort of gone right back to farming sort of roots, and when it became mechanized. My friend Ray, who I talk about quite a bit, he absolutely adores this series. So Ray, I know you're out there watching, mate. I hope you're well. I haven't seen you for a few weeks, but I will try and get over to see you. I might even try and make a point of it tomorrow. You watch your message and I say, no, you can keep away. I'll just watch you on YouTube. But yeah, no. So yeah, I think. A lot of the, I mean, honestly, I said it the other day, I never really had any interest in the old way of farming. I mean, don't get me wrong, I started my tractor driving career on a David Brown 886 when I was 8 years old. I mean, just briefly, to give a bit of context to that. Yeah, just to interrupt myself, yeah, I think that's true as well. The fact that, and a couple of people have actually said that it's really nice to actually watch you, sort of do the jobs like this, the way that they were done, and the fact that, and it's kind of the reason why I chose the map that I did, because it would have been really, really easy to have chosen a map with really small fields. And I kind of sort of, when I was sort of thinking about the series, I was kind of like, well, you're not going to fully appreciate the amount of effort and work that went into a 1950s farm if you're using small equipment and you're using it on small fields. I kind of felt that the point that I was trying to make would get lost. So I deliberately chose a map with absolutely massive fields. I mean, this, I'm playing Midwest Horizon map, and the fields on here are huge. I mean, just to give you sort of some kind of reference, the field. I mean, this is the field that we're in. It's still not the biggest. I mean, that one we do. I mean, we've currently got wheat in that one, but that's a massive field, and that takes quite a while, which is why the other day I was sort of mentioning it on my stream the other day, that when I said that I was going to start live streaming 1950s as well as doing the episodes, because there'll be people that can't watch the live streams that only watch the episode. So I will do it hand in hand, so that everybody gets a fair opportunity to see 1950s. But I say my point, sort of being that a couple of days ago, or it was a few months ago to be fair, but I was talking about it a couple of days ago where someone actually, sort of said, oh, it's fairly obvious what you do. You do a 20-minute video with the old equipment, and then, you just get in all the big stuff and and it's like, well, no, I don't actually, because then I would be cheating my viewers. I sit here for hours upon hours. And don't get me wrong, I love it. I've got nothing really better else to do with my time. I sort of find, moving around and physical stuff quite hard to do. And so to sit in my chair and sort of just sit and do this all day, usually if I'm not live streaming or recording, I've usually got my music on, or, I've got YouTube on in the background, sort of watching videos and usually comedy videos, if I'm honest. That tends to be my thing, because I enjoy laughing. I know that sounds really stupid, but I don't think enough people in today's modern world try it often enough. Morning, Jeff. Hope you're well. I apologise if you saw yesterday's advertised stream and then we just didn't do it. Like I say, the street went out of internet. I don't really know why. That never really got explained to me, but yeah, the street went out, and this morning it was still out, but I think about 11 o'clock we sort of kind of realised that the internet was back up and working properly. So it was a rush decision, and it wasn't much warning between me sort of kind of advertising it and it going out, and then me starting the stream. But that's just the way it worked out this time. As I say, next time hopefully we won't have that again, and we'll be able to advertise it properly. I might even set up a day and a time every week so that everyone knows when it's going to be, and then you can just sort of join without me having to say. I mean, if you'll hit the notification bell, you'll get told anyway of when I'm streaming, so that does help. But yeah. Excuse me. But yeah, as I say, it's that was why, to go back to the original point I was actually sort of going to make, why I chose a map with massive fields, so that people understood the scale of farming back in the 1950s. And like I say, if I'd chosen a map with small fields, it would have been lost. The scale of it would have been sort of lost to the size of the fields, whereas this way you really do appreciate how small the equipment is, for the amount of time that it does take. And like I say, I do sit and do all the things, and the great thing about now being able, with my new PC and everything, to live stream, and the fact that I've now got the software to be able to do it, people can actually appreciate that I do sit and do the jobs that I say I do, and and do it the way that you know, that I say I do it. As I've said before, you know, like, you know, like I just said, I haven't really got anything else in life to do, and B, I wouldn't want to do anything else. You know, farming is my passion. If I could still work, I would be working on the farm, and so the fact that a game is, you know, sort of made available, which is why I am sometimes reluctant to criticise Giants. I know Giants make a lot of mistakes, and I know sometimes they could do things a lot better or a lot different, but I still, at the back of my mind, do say to myself, but without them I wouldn't be, you know, I literally would have nothing. Well, I know you'd find something else to do, but because of them I'm able to do what I love, alright, via a computer game, but I'm still able to do it, and that's you know, that's a big thing. And so I am really appreciative, you know, and now that they're starting to get FS25 really sorted, I'm really getting into FS25 now. Like I say, Whitcomb Park Farm's going to be coming out. You know, hopefully we'll be doing like a little mini series on that. We'll do a few videos on there, do a little bit of farming, just sort of check the map out and that. Fen Edge is coming. So I might do a series on that as well, because I love Fen Edge. So plenty to be getting on with, thank goodness. It's all thanks to the brilliant modders that we have, so there's plenty to be getting on with. Alright, we'll do a few more round and round like this, and then we'll go across, and then we'll go from the left hand side of the field back to here and go round and round, do this block, and then move over. Say in real life you wouldn't do it this way because it would leave too many open furrows, but that doesn't really matter on farm sim. And whilst I like to do it realistic and keep it as it would be done in real life, at the same time I do have to try and make this stream entertaining enough. And like I said, what I didn't want was me driving continuously from one end of the field to the other, because that just wouldn't have been that great to watch, I don't think. So I think we'll sort of split it up like that, get this field done, and then, as I say, we've got the cultivating to do then. We've got the cultivating to do, and then obviously get it drilled. And I think sorghum's going to go in here. I had someone put a comment on the last video saying that they would really like to see the cotton and the cotton stuff, which, you know, would have been fine. I would have done that, but we are too late, unfortunately, to plant cotton, so we're gonna have to forgo that this year. But we can certainly have cotton in this field next year, because we can get it harvested and prepared early enough in the autumn, so that we can just come straight in the early, well, late winter, early spring, and get it drilled. So yeah, we can definitely do that. That would be quite cool, because I quite like using the cotton stuff too. It's yeah, it's pretty good. So how does everyone feel about the new DLC that's coming up? Are you all getting excited for it, or, you know, looking forward to it? Are you going to buy it? I have to admit, I probably won't. I've sort of looked at it a few times and it doesn't really seem to get me too excited, but as I sort of said earlier, that kind of is perhaps more because that's not the way I play the game. So that's probably why I'm sort of not that excited about it. But you know, perhaps other people, you know, are really looking forward to it. You know, that you know, which is fair enough. have to admit, Ricky, the game that you're setting up there sounds a little bit like I don't know if you've seen the series that I'm currently doing from the ground up. It's a great way to play the game, a really good way to play the game. Oh dear, I've turned too stunt again. I think when I first started, well actually it wasn't even when oh dear, we really are stuck. I'm gonna have to do a full spinny. when I first started tractor driving, probably about a year in, I got given the wonderful job of disc scouring, and I've been going away, like, you know, up and down, or I was doing it in lands, and I think I was probably about 15, 16 when I was doing it, and I say I'd been doing it in lands, and a bit like Jeremy Clarkson, I got a bit bored of sort of going in lands, so I decided, he went in lands and I decided to go up and down. I felt I could get more done, but obviously after what had happened, I realised, well, they told me to go in lands because obviously the discs all face one way, so you can only turn the way they face, you can't turn against them. And I decided, no, I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to go, and because what I did was I turned against the discs, which knackered all of the, well, most of the bearings in the front disc, and in the front discs, and because I turned so stuntly, the 3-point, the bottom two arms, link arms, got caught up underneath the drawbar of the disc arrows, and of course dragged it into the wheel. Into the wheel. So I managed to jackknife my disc arrows. Not only that, I managed to, as I say, the outside two bearings, because on the ones that we had, we had the Simba discs, the Simba fold down disc arrows. I think, if memory serves, they were the 8-meter ones. I think we had. I don't know if they were or 6-meter maybe, with the little fold down. And yeah, I rang the boss man and had to, well, he wasn't happy, we'll say that. I didn't get to drive tractors again for quite a while. Oh yeah, that reminded me of that. I don't know whether I just got it tangled in the crawler, or whether I actually caught a tree, or quite what I did with it, but we definitely seem to have got it stuck there for a second, didn't we? Anyway, we're away again. Apologies if you heard that, I just needed a drink. Yeah, that's very true. It's very, very true. Yeah, after that, any advice that I got, I tended to stick with. Yeah, it didn't go, like I say, it really didn't go down very well. Yeah, I got in a lot of trouble. And like I say, I wasn't able to go on the tractors again for a while, so I then went back to sort of yard sweeping and sort of jobs like that. But I definitely learnt my lesson, and I certainly didn't do it again. Yeah, the other early mistake in my career that I made was I was ploughing in. I know a lot of these place names don't mean all that much to you guys, but I was I was ploughing in a particular field in Suttons and Edmonds, and which is not too far from the farm, sort of like the next village over, and I was ploughing away, doing a lovely job, and I thought, oh, I'm really proud of myself. But all the time since I'd got into that field, my focus had been on the telegraph pole that was in the middle, and it was really playing on my mind. It was, sort of like I don't know whether I'd go as far as say I was worrying about it, but it was certainly on my mind. It was on my thoughts, and I was kind of like, and I was thinking like, how do you go? Like, no one's told me how to go around the telegraph pole or blah blah blah. And I thought, well, actually, just drive up to it with the tractor, and then we'll have to sort of just plough around it as best we can, and people know that it's your first time and that you're sort of new to all of this, so they'll go easy on you, And anyway, gets to the telegraph pole and realises it's got the wire coming down from the top, sort of anchoring it each side in the field, and I decided as I got to it, and I was sort of ploughing, sort of round and up to it, and trying to use my own initiative, which is never a good thing, as is what I learned over the years. Before I turned the tractor, I turned the plough over, thinking that way I won't hit the wire, I won't get tangled in it or whatever. I then turned outwards, which meant the plough swung inwards. Means it smashed it away, it cut straight through the wire, straight into the telegraph pole, and like sort of snapped it, but it didn't sort of fall to the ground because the wire the other side was just about managing to take the strain and hold it up. And it was sparking. My plough furrow was caught in the wire on the side that I'd hit. It was sparking and smoking and everything else, and I was like, oh my god. And so I rang the boss man and I said to him, I told him what I'd done, and he went, whatever you do not get out of your tractor. He said, I'm coming over. I was like, okay. And then anyway, by the time he'd reached me, he'd rung the electricity board, and they come along, and then I stayed sat in my tractor, and they turned the power off, and then a bloke walked up and opened my door, and he goes, you can get out now. And that was another thing. They, obviously kind of upset them, made all the lads on the farm, laugh their we'll go the other way actually. Laugh their laugh their socks off, to put it politely, and only me. Oh yeah. They, as I say, and the boss man, I remember him sort of standing where he was standing, and then they got me out, and I was able then to leave the tractor and go over to the boss man, and we walked over to assess the damage, and he said to me, you did a lovely job playing around that telegraph pole. I said, thank you. He said, it's just a shame you felt the necessity towards the end to smash through it. And I just said, well, I just thought that if it wasn't there at all, it would be even easier. To which the joke didn't go down too well. So I... But yeah, it was... I'll tell you, I mean, it's funny now, but back then it was bloody scary. And of course half of Suttons and Edmonds was no longer on the electricity, but to be fair to the electricity board, they did get it up and running and going again within like a few hours, because obviously they had to replace the post. So but as I say, they did get it up and going again, you know, within sort of 3 or 4 hours. And obviously I wasn't allowed in the field working while they were in there, because I don't think any of them fancied losing their heads while I was turning the plough over and turning around. So yeah, I wasn't allowed in the field, but it was funny. Well, it's funny now, as I can say. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I bet you're right there. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that really. I mean, even this crawler really, with its steel tracks, it would have been a bit interesting. It would have been spicy, to say the least. But yeah, I hadn't really thought of that. Yeah, yeah. Thank God for me good years. This bleeding chair, you know, I really have got to get a new office chair. Actually, you know, I was even further away from this end than what I thought I was. It didn't look that far away. And I'm not even looking through beer goggles either. Never mind. Excuse me. Boy, oh boy, is this a steep hill. I mean, look at that left track. It is spinning. And the problem with it is, because it's spinning so much as it is and the other one's hardly moving, it's actually turning me to the right, so it's actually really hard to keep it straight. We ain't doing too bad a job. It's not as straight as I'd like it, but it's not too bad. Could be a lot worse. Could be a lot better, of course, I accept that as well, but well, I mean, now that is a story. That is a story, Rick. Yeah, it's pretty amazing, that. Yeah, it's made me think, that one. Yeah, that's, as I say, that is in the context of sort of today, so that's a, you know, pretty amazing story, and I must admit, I love stories like that. It's just such a shame that both my granddads died when I was still quite young. So my granddad that I used to ride on the track marshal with, he died when I was 8, I think, when I was 8. And then my dad's dad died, I think, when I was either 9 or 10, and they were quite close together. So I kind of missed out on sort of stories like that. Although, having said that, my dad's dad was very, what can I say, very silent when it came to anything to do with the war, whereas my mum's mum and dad, they, like my nan, I mean, on a Sunday I used to get some lovely stories of her and her friends, the land girls, as they were called. I mean, my nan worked on the farm the first farm that I worked on. My nan worked there, my granddad worked there, my mum worked there, my 2 uncles worked there. It was a real family affair, that one. And then eventually, I say, my granddad died, unfortunately. My nan worked there until she was in her 80s, and then she got dementia. So, and they still wanted her to go in 1 day a week. It was like, she could barely remember her name and where she lived and what have you, and she was expected to remember to turn in for work. But yeah, they, as I say, they had all of us at some point, and yeah, so my nan, she used to give wonderful stories about the land girls and what have you. I mean, she worked on the farm anyway. She worked on the farm from when she was about 13, I think it was. She worked on the farm, and yeah, say she used to drive the combine, used to drive the tractors. Pretty cool. It was managed to drive to plough the road, and no one noticed. Yeah, so I love stories like that. They really give you a sense of belonging, place, and I think like today's generation, I don't know, I think they miss out on so much just because they just dismiss everything because, who cares about, 50 years ago? Well, actually, it's where you came from. So you might want to learn about it, you might want to, but yeah, kids just don't, do they? And I think it's such a shame, like, as I say, I used to go, like, when my nan got dementia. I mean, one of the weirdest things about dementia that I could ever fathom was I used to go and see my nan on a Sunday, and I used to take her to mum's, and then she'd come and have dinner with us, and then eventually she got put into a home to sort of help, because obviously mum was still at work and what have you, and and I'd sort of walk into the room, and she just this blank stare of like, who the hell has just walked into my house? And then you used to get the, who are you? And then it's like, it's me, Nan, it's James. And then she's like, who's James? And I'd say, your grandson. I've come to pick you up, take you at mum's for dinner. Oh, dinner! Oh, that sounds nice. What are we having? We're having roast beef now. It's like, oh yeah. Well, you can sit down if you're going to do that. And thanks, Nan. Do you want a cup of tea? No, I'm fine. Thank you. Honestly, I'm fine. And then you'd sort of kind of sit there, and I'd say, well, how you been, Nan? Because I used to see her every day anyway, because I used to take a paper, and I used to just check in on her in the morning when I took the paper, like, to make sure she was okay. Mum would call in on her way home from work in the afternoon, and then, and so we used to we used to check on her, and we'd sort of be sat there, and I'd sort of wouldn't really know what to sort of talk about, and then and then suddenly my nan would just break out into stories about the war and remember it like it was yesterday. But like I say, no clue who I was, no clue what day it was, no clue really where she was or anything like that. But as soon as you went back 70 years, she could remember it like it was just happening, and it's an incredible thing to witness. But yeah, she, as I say, very sadly missed now, of course. But yeah, it was, and occasionally I went a few times when she was in the home, and like, she wouldn't really be too sure about, sort of who I was or whatever, and then if sort of conversation was quite stunted and quite difficult, I used to say, go to her, got any war stories, man? Well, I have actually. You take a seat, young man. I'll tell you all about it. Go for that. This will pass a couple of hours. And then, literally, I would hear the same stories week after week after week after week. But she'd always tell it like it was a brand new story. It was incredible. It was amazing. And so I fully love. This year, I'm hoping, all being well, I'm hoping to do the Dam Busters trip, which is, so you start off at the Lincolnshire Air Base, which the name has completely exited my head. But you start off there, you go up to Sheffield to the dam in Sheffield or near Sheffield where they practiced, and then via train going then from the UK to the Ruhr Dam in Germany and taking in all the sites and all the sort of things and all the relevant, that's the word I was looking for, all the relevant sites and all the relevant sort of monuments on the way to the dams, and then obviously end up at the dams. I'm also hopefully as well this year going to do a day vlog where I start at Heathrow, and the idea is that I leave Heathrow on the 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock, hang on, I think it's, or is it the 10 to 5? It might be the 10 to 5 one. It's either the 10 to 5 or 10 to 6. Leave in the morning, fly to Aberdeen, and then via train I've got to try and get back to Penzance before the sun sets. So that's pretty... I've sort of worked out the time with a little bit of help from AI, it has to be said. But we've kind of sort of worked out the timings that I should have around 40 minutes spare to do the trip. So basically, as I say, you start from Heathrow just as the sun rises, and then I've got to try and race the sun from Heathrow to Aberdeen, and then Aberdeen to Penzance before the sun sets, and to see whether or not I can actually do it. So I'm hoping that's going to happen this year as well. I sort of say it won't happen because obviously if my heart plays up or if it gets, then it obviously can't happen because I wouldn't have the energy to walk around and to move around. So as I always say, hopefully it will happen because sort of everything okay, and I can sort of do them, do these things. But yeah, that's what I'm kind of sort of hoping and planning early part of this year. I think you're right about the past there, Rick, as well. Yeah, I think lived, it was probably very sort of difficult and challenging to use two very insignificant words, but to ourselves, sort of don't live through it, or won't ever live through it. It's interesting, and it is kind of the better. And I think that was when sort of in probably the 60s, 70s, 80s was when life was at its peak, because it didn't have technology to ruin everything. People still needed people contact and communication. I mean, I always give the same story, and honestly, it opened my eyes. So I come from a very traditional family. We do things today as we did as kids. You go to the tea table, you sit up there, there's no technology. You have your food, and you sort of talk about the day or whatever. Although as mum does get older, we have noticed that the TV is starting to creep in an awful lot more, but okay. No, I'm not going to say the joke. It's a little bit mean, but yeah. So it has sort of creeped in a little bit. But as I say, today kids just don't appreciate anything. If it isn't Gemini or Alexa or whatever, they're just not interested. They are just literally not interested. And I think they just miss out on so much because of it. But yeah, it's not good. But yeah, so as I say, with the other thing I'm hoping to do, and I have spoken with the place as well. So I'm hoping to do the David Brown Museum this year, and they want me to go whilst the museum is currently closed, because the the lady was like, "Oh, we'll give you free admission." It's like, oh well, thank you. To be fair, I don't really mind paying, to be honest with you, and it helps your running costs. Yeah, but we've got some things that we would like you to include in the video, and we'd like you to do this bit, and we'd like you to. And I was like, oh, okay, okay. So of course I agree. It makes no difference to me. So I'm hoping to do that in the next sort of, because it doesn't open till April. So I have got a few weeks to do that. But so I'm looking forward to that, and then sort of doing the Churchill museums and the underground tunnels from 10 Downing Street to the war rooms in Westminster. So I'm doing all that with the full tour and everything. So again, hopefully that will all take place and happen. And while I'm there that day, because it's not a full day thing, I'm going to do the Tower of London as well, the Imperial War Museum as well. So whether I do sort of like a 2-day trip to London. I mean, London's not that far from me, but I'm buggered if I'm travelling up there one day, travelling home, and then travelling up the next day to do the sort of second half of the day. So like I say, I might sort of stay over in London, and obviously I've got my racing that I do anyway. I sort of don't put too much up about the racing, because I sort of don't know whether people would be that interested in it. So I sort of tend to usually just put a community post of, tonight I'm in, Lynn or wherever. Oh, we're stuck. Come on, gal. Come on, gal. Yeah, she's pulling her up. She's pulling us up. Cool. Just imagine if that was real life, the state of the ground that would be behind me. I mean, that doesn't look too bad, does it? But, well, in actual fact, it looks perfect. But, cool. There would be some ruts in there. But that is one steep hill. I didn't realise how steep that bloody hill was. But yeah. So what we all thinking for this field then? Soybeans, corn, sunflowers, sorghum? I'm thinking sorghum, but feel free to lay some suggestions as to what we might put in here. Yeah, I don't think harvest will be too bad on it. And so this field is quite a lot smaller than the field in front of us, where we have our wheat. So, as I say, if I hadn't have been so late in buying the field, I would have done cotton in here. I mean, that would have taken, again, an extraordinary long time, but I do really, like I say, I just love chilling with these older machines and this save. I absolutely love this. I was gutted when I moved over to my new PC and this save wouldn't work. I was absolutely, honestly, I kind of used to sit there thinking about it, thinking, James, it's just a save on a computer game. Like, it's not the end of the world, mate. And it's like, well, it is, but I really enjoyed it. You know, I really enjoyed this series, and so I was really disappointed. Then the computer went to the menders, and I sort of thought, and I was playing on my old one again, but my old one, it hardly has any memory. Certainly I wouldn't have enough memory on there to have recorded videos and to upload them. I knew that wasn't going to happen, but to be fair, it was nice to have a couple of 3 weeks off completely, and just sort of play computer games for sort of my own enjoyment, if you like. And then I thought, actually, while I've got the old computer up and sort of going, let's try and see if we can get this to work. And I tried doing it a completely different way, and thankfully it worked. So I'm really chuffed. Really chuffed that that the save is back. Like I say, in terms of harvest, not too worried. I mean, a lot of the harvest will be streamed anyway, just because I think it would make a good stream. I know I have to do both jobs, the tractor trailer and the combine, but again, that sort of doesn't really worry me too much. Like I say, I mean, as I said earlier, I never really had any interest in the older way of doing farming. I grew up with Challengers and big tractors, and that was where I was. And then one day it was kind of like, I want to do YouTube. Looked at what everyone was doing on YouTube and thought, everyone's doing a much of a muchness, really. Thought, what can I do that's a bit different and something that's like really long term? And then it was like, well, why not start farming in the 1950s, which is when farming became more and more mechanised, and go from there, start from there and sort of go all the way through to modern day. And so, this sort of series was invented. Then I was lucky enough to find a farm that I could sort of base it off. And yeah, I've never looked back. I tend now, even my own saves tend to be more really older equipment based than the new stuff. So yeah, it's it's the way that it's turned me, I'm afraid. That's interesting to know, Jeff. Like I say, I've never been, and I'm sort of just looking for stuff to do this year, because as much as I kind of do sit here a lot, I do sometimes really just need to get out. But obviously, I'm always looking for kind of sort of like easy access places, and the other thing as well is there's no point me going out for the day if I'm not going to enjoy where we're going. Another reason why I think I'm single. Really, love? Do we have to go there? I mean, like, sounds a bit rubbish. James, it's the church for our wedding day. Yeah, but I mean, would you rather go to a museum or see some tractors ploughing somewhere? No, love. Hence the reason why I'm single. But yeah, no, I'm pleased that you liked it, Jeff. Like I say, I'm sort of thinking about doing it this year. What I'm going to do is, or what I hope to do, is put the GoPro on my chest and then kind of film it as I walk around, and I'm assuming I can get a Bluetooth microphone for the GoPro so that I can sort of talk as I'm going round. But it just means I haven't got to hold my phone all day. A couple of times last year when I was out sort of at shows and different things and recording for YouTube, I did find the fact that I needed to hold my phone all day could be quite limiting to some of the things that I wanted to do, and some of the things that I wanted to show. So to have sort of the GoPro either on my head or on my chest while I go round and sort of talking feels like a much more convenient way of doing it, and hopefully it might be a little bit more interesting as well for you guys that watch. I mean, my PX farm video that I did last year, that did very well. I loved the day there, that was fantastic. I thought I worked on a big farm, and then I went there and realised I worked on a very small farm. It was good to see. The Raw Norfolk show was really good. We got to see quite a lot of old tractors there. The year before I went with my ex, and they did a 1950s special where they had like all of the tractors and implements and stuff in the ring, and they were doing a big talk about them, and because I wanted to record it, because obviously it goes with this series. And I think another reason why I'm single, oh no, that's boring, come on, I want to go and look at the horses. Can't you go and look at the horses and I do this? It's like, oh no, we're out together for the day. Yeah, but we're just doing all the things you want to do. So yeah, like I say, I think it could be the reasons why I'm single, and why actually, at 40, well, 45 in a couple of weeks. At 45, I actually prefer it. I genuinely do prefer it. It's just like, I wake up, right, I want to go there today, and I just go and do it, and I sort of really enjoy. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I do miss the company of someone else, but not for very long. As soon as farm sim's loaded in, I'm well away again. I think when I had to leave work, I think it was very hard for me to understand and to comprehend that I now had all this time. And I think for a while, and this is going to sound odd, but I think I wasted a lot of time because I felt I had, I don't know, it was a big shock being told, you're going to have to give up work because, your heart failure's got to the point where we really need to manage it carefully now because, we've sort of got to a critical stage of it. And then kind of realising that you had all this time available, but feeling like you'd got no time. So on the one hand, it was like someone had basically given me all of the time in the world, but then a group of people had sort of said, you haven't got that much time, and it kind of felt like I needed to do everything yesterday. And as the years have passed, and we're about 10 years down the line now roughly, I've kind of realised actually I've got more time than what they kind of made me think I'd got, but less time overall because obviously I'm now 10 years down the line, and so with this save, I think has taught me that actually life doesn't have to be a million miles an hour. It doesn't have to be like you do everything in that one day. You've got time, you can just relax, you can take 2 days to harvest the field, you can take, like today, this afternoon, sort of plough in this field. I'm probably going to be ploughing this field for the rest of today, like until I go to bed. But I've sort of finally got to the mindset where there is a tomorrow. Yes, you might feel like there's not, but there is a tomorrow. And so therefore it doesn't matter. And it's really odd, like when you get told that you can't work, because your day is obviously structured around time. So you had to be at work at 7, you had to be, your field by sort of usually by 8:30, unless it was a bit of travel. But within 8:30 was the sort of aim time for being at the field. So that meant that you had to have your machine greased, fueled, have everything that you think you might need for that day, and then be at your field by sort of 8:30. Your first break was at 9. Then you'd work till lunch, which was usually anywhere from 11:30 to 11:45. You used to get 45 minutes for lunch. And it's funny enough, actually, I still have my lunch today at 11:30. I still go for my lunch today at 11:30. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, I am hungry. It's funny how we sort of train our bodies to work to a sort of time frame. As I say, like one of the biggest things about suddenly all that not being there no more is kind of feeling there's no time when actually there is a lot of time, but that time does, sort of, I'm not really wording it right, but it's taken a lot for me to get my head around it. And as you said there, Rick, it's nice when there's, when you lose the rush, the need to rush, and it is, but it's only recently happened, really. I think with the help of this save, and sort of one or two other things in life that's gone on, I've suddenly kind of realised actually, I don't have to have everything done yesterday. There is a tomorrow, and so therefore you can plan a little bit more. You can take your time a little bit more. And you can enjoy it a bit more as well. You don't need to. It's kind of felt like for quite a few years I was experiencing things, but I was doing it so rushed that I wasn't really taking any of them in. And as I say, like last year when I went to PX Farms, when I went to Royal Norfolk, I actually took it in. I was there all day, and I sort of walked around, planned where I wanted to do filming, planned what I wanted to film, and really sort of took my time with it. Whereas before it would have been, right, get here, must go there, must do this, must film that, we must go and see there, or I haven't got no time for that, I'll have to go to that one, and it was you'd get home and I'd be exhausted and I think, well, I didn't see any of it, The only bits I see is the bits I recorded, and I only recorded like a video for maybe, sort of half hour, 40 minutes, and I'm thinking, but I was there for like, sort of 8 hours, and so yeah, it is really, I don't know why this is happening on this bit. I'm not too sure. There is a way we can straighten that out, but it will take a little bit of overlapping, I'm afraid. But we can straighten this out again. But I don't know why it's gone like this on this side, unless the hill does push my tractor off more to one side, more to the right, and then I'm sort of trying to constantly nudge it back left, which is obviously when you're ploughing is something you don't do if you want to keep it straight. The other thing as well is I can't see the other end of the field with that hill in the way. So the first bit of the field from that end, from the end behind us, I'm guessing as to where I'm coming out of the other end. So yeah, it's a bit wonky this side, but the other side in theory should be okay. And to the left of us, that side does seem fairly straight, but it does annoy me when I'm not straight. It annoys me an awful lot more than it should do. But yeah, so we'll, as I say, we'll persevere and crack on. It's not taken long for my nice clean crawler to start to look dirty and messy, which is a shame. Like I say, I gave it a good clean before we came on air today. I thought I'm gonna show these lovely YouTube people that I do look after me things, but she's soon getting dirty. Mind you, it's all the soil it's flipping up from spinning on that hill. Yeah, it's that's the issue there. Is it's all the mud. Why do I have a horrible feeling I didn't drop the plough? Oh, I did drop the plough down. I was going to say, I just had this thought. I was like, did I drop the plough down? I used to, when I first started ploughing, I used to do that bugger all the time. I used to be driving down the wheel in the furrow, driving down the field thinking, cool, this tractor ain't half pulling this plough really nicely this way, and then you'd sort of look behind you and the plough's still in the air and it's like, what am I doing? Honestly, the mistakes and the different things that I did when I first started and when I first set out in tractor driving, towards the end, I mean, I was sort of getting a little bit of recognition towards the end. I'd sort of started to get a few certificates and different things, for the jobs that I did on the farm. So they have like the Farmers Weekly Awards and stuff in this country, and you know, sort of used to get towards the end I was getting recognised for ploughing and spraying and different. I mean, I wasn't the farm sprayman, but again, like you know, I've sort of said before, all of us on the farm could do each other's jobs. So if obviously one day, you know, one of you wasn't there, you know, just someone else could step straight in. You know, it was not an issue. And but yeah, the person that sort of left farming to the person that began farming, I know we all have to start somewhere, but honestly, it's like, you know, really, is that the same person? I just sort of can't believe some of the things I used to do, you know, when I first started out on farming. And like I say, for the first probably year or 2 years of sort of ploughing and tractor drive, the amount of times that I would be going down like one way or t'other and I've forgotten to put the implement down, honestly, frightening. But yeah, you know, sort of towards the you know, you learn it, and you I think you get into a routine then when you start doing jobs, and as I say, you know, you start then on sort of the headlands and stuff, and I started to get into routes because when I first started ploughing, I mean, I used to plough all over the place, so I'm not very good at it. To be fair, actually, when I first started ploughing, I didn't like ploughing because it always looked a mess, and I couldn't work out why my ploughing always looked a mess and everybody else's ploughing always looked really nice. But the more and more, obviously the same with anything in life, the more and more you did it, you know, the more and more I started to sort of get it to look a little bit better, and you know, you start to make a job of it, and you sort of think, well, actually I quite enjoy this. And then, as I say, like, and then GPS came in when I was on farm 2. GPS came into it, and it was like, you know, it's a bit dull just sitting here driving up and down with everything else doing everything. So, like I said, you know, sort of previous, I used to turn it off and just sort of plough, you know, sort of my way or whatever. And it was, you know, sort of a better way for me to do it. But yeah. And another when I first started thinking, so the first farm that I worked on, when I sort of first started, the boss man in the morning said to me, he said, about 11 o'clock, can you go up to farm 3? So I said, yeah, no problem. So he said, can you bring a trailer with you? Got some brash and different things that I want to load into the trailer. He said, and I want you to bring it back. Yeah, no problem. I said, there's about 11 o'clock. Yeah, he said, yeah, 11 o'clock. He said, in and around there. He said, if I'm not there, just wait for me. So I said, yeah, fair enough. So there I was, 11 o'clock on the dot, pulled into farm 3, pulled up, and he was there waiting with the forklift. And I got out and I said, all present and correct. And he looked at me, and I went, what? And he went, unbelievable. I said, what? He said, what did I tell you to bring? I said, the trailer. I said, the trailer. And I turned around. Forgot the trailer. I said, just wait there, I'll pop back and get it. Oh dear me. I'll tell you, honestly, I think the same as any young lad. When I first, I was so eager to impress everybody and to sort of kind of prove that I was worth, you know, sort of the job and given the opportunity and everything else, that I think I tried so hard that I ended up sort of kind of failing at everything. But yeah, I just remember the look on his face, and me going, "What?" And he goes, "What did I ask you to bring?" And the trailer, as I turned round to point at it, and then realised it wasn't on the back of the tractor. Oh dear me. I think we probably all have incidences and stories like that though, from when we first set off on the job, any job. You know, I mean, like I say, it's not just farming. I'm sure everyone in every walk of life, you know, does silly things. It's it does make me smile now though when I think back to it, and I look back and I sort of think, what the hell was I doing? And let's have a look. We've still got the little bit of a kinklet in it, and I thought I'd sort of well, it does seem like I managed to plough a bit of it off. But if there's a bump there, it will look a little bit like it. Another, it's definitely out of line, isn't it? Never mind. Never mind. There is a bit of a bump here, but we're not doing too bad. We're a little bit far over again. So have any of you guys out there played Midwest Horizon? Personally, I love this map. I think it's a great map. The only thing I don't like about the map is that the plough texture, although it's working okay there, on some fields it will plough like a couple of meters. So it'll plough the plough width and then a couple of meters further over. And that sort of like, especially I tend to notice it more when I'm drilling, when I'm planting rather than when I'm ploughing. But yeah, as I say, that's the only sort of negative to the map that I would have. But yeah, I do like this map, like I say. And you know, I mean, for those of you that have watched 1950s from the beginning, you know how different that farm was when we first started, you know, to the new farm that we built, was it about 2 years ago now in the game, I think. You know, and Harry's farm as well. I mean, you know, I have got more plans for Harry's farm, because Harry did start to expand and to grow in the sort of mid to late 50s. You know, obviously we put the cow shed down there. Again, that was, I think that was in and around the same time that I did the farm down here. Yeah, we did that. But so we've still got some little bit more expanding and stuff to do on Harry's farm. Sort of, you know, we're getting ready to move into the 60s. Obviously the combine that we're using, that combine wasn't being used either by the dairy or by Harry. Well, in all fairness, Harry was using a similar type of combine in the mid to late 50s, trailed pull behind combine, that similar to the one that we're using on the series. But the dairy had moved over to self-propelled John Deere Lands combines. I can't use them. I have got some in my mods folder, but I can't use them on this save because the augers don't go over the trailers. It's too low, and I can't find a gravity wagon as well. The farm, the dairy farm in the mid 50s, you know, moved over to gravity wagons, and then the sort of self-propelled combine that you know, that we sort of know today. Obviously they're 50 times bigger and what they were back then, but you know, the combines that we know today, sort of thing. So that's the only reason why that hasn't been upgraded on that farm, and a couple of the tractors as well, that I would have liked to have used. Like, this is meant to be a John Deere crawler, because they had one of the first, was it, I might be wrong on this, was it the John Deere Minneapolis crawler, I think it was called, or I might be getting that from something else. It has been a little while since I've been doing my research on 1950s and 1950s farm. Like I say, 'cause, you know, for several months before Christmas, you know, I couldn't even get this saved to sort of work or reload. So I'm almost certain I'll still have my my notes somewhere. I definitely wouldn't have thrown them away, because I say it was always my intention to get this saved back, and to get it up and working again, and get it so that we were all able to re-enjoy it again. You know, it's sort of quite, well, it was very important to me. But yeah, it's a good map, and like I say, once we start to get Harry's farm upgraded a little bit, move into the 60s, when the one and only time that the dairy moved away from John Deere combines, or John Deere equipment actually, because they actually moved over to the class, now then, I think it was the class Matador in the 60s that they moved to, if I am remembering that correctly. But they only had them for, I think they had them for about three maybe 5 years, and then they moved straight back to John Deere. And like I say, today everything they have is John Deere. Pretty much the same with Harry. Harry does have a few other branded tractors. He has a case. He has a case on the farm, and he also has he has 2 Caterpillars as well, as well as a quad track. So yeah, as I say, it's we've some things to be doing when we get later on in the series, that's for sure, and some interesting stuff to be having, like the John Deere pull behind combine, which I've managed to find now, funnily enough, for the late 80s, early 90s. We had 3 of them. Again, because of course play restrictions, I'm probably going to have only one of them, and I'm obviously going to have to drive it myself, but by then hopefully we'll have sort of auto drive in the save as well, because in the late 80s to the sort of early to mid 90s, they moved over from bins to silos with the grain pits and loading that way. So obviously, you know, both farms will be kept updated to what they were at the time. I'm just lucky that Harry did keep such a good record, you know, at a time when, you know, cameras were not widespread and different things, you know, but he does have, you know, odd pictures. If I can manage to find the pictures again, because like I say, I haven't looked that stuff up for such a long time, then I might try and actually put some of them up on one of the episodes at the end. I might just like list it as a kind of flick through photo album, you know, where the photos are shown what the farms look like and the people that work them and the machinery. But excuse me, yeah, I'd say it's and of course, if you're not playing or haven't used this map, you know, what is your favourite FS22 map? You know, what is the one that you go to? I know Rick, you said that you was doing a new save on, and I can never pronounce the name of that map. garden tull or what. I literally, like, you know, I just can't pronounce it. But you know, what would be your all-time favourite FS22 map? For me, probably Vintage Oaks or Fen Edge. I'm going to go Vintage Oaks just because Fen Edge did have a couple of issues, but not as annoying as the Vintage Oaks issues, where if you accidentally cut down or deleted an oak tree, you lost your save. To this day, I do not know why Farms in Briscoe did that. That if you accidentally cut down an oak tree or deleted an oak tree, you lost your save, as in you lost everything, because it just wouldn't reload. It just crashed the game. I like, you know, that was annoying, but overall it was a really good map. Yeah, I did really enjoy, because I used to do a series on there. I don't know if you guys can remember, Sunnyside Up Farms, which I've still got actually, and I have now got that working too, but I'm not overly sure that people would be as interested in that series coming back as what they were for this series. You know, as I say, this series I think did mean a bit to quite a lot of people. You know, meant something to quite a lot of people, especially Ray. You know, that I talk about, that I work with on Farm 1. You know, it means an awful lot to him, because, you know, this is the era really that he lived, and he says that this is the era when farming was farming, you know, up until sort of, again, the mid-90s, which, you know, when you talk to a lot of people, they say that the mid-90s is when life changed. And I'd probably go along with that, to be fair. I mean, in the mid-90s I was still at secondary school then, so it probably wasn't as noticeable to me as it was to the older generation, but yeah, certainly the mid to late 90s. I mean, I left secondary school in 97. I went to George Farmer in Holbeach, which is not too far from where I live, out here in the old Fens. That was more Norfolk, to be fair, but I was going to say a joke there, but it would have got me in quite a lot of trouble. But yeah, so as I say, that was sort of that was 97 when I left there, and and I guess, you know, we didn't sort of notice the changes as much because it was our childhood, it was our time of life, sort of thing, if you know what I mean. Whereas now, when I look back, and you sort of think, yeah, by sort of 97, 98, you know, we got our first sort of console computer, which fairly certain was a PlayStation 1. I mean, before that we'd had the Mega Drive. We had the Mega Drive 2. My brother had a Lynx, a handheld computer thing. I had the Game Gear, which was a handheld thing. I suppose a little bit like the PS Play, I think it's called, isn't it? That's handheld. I had one of them as well, but I didn't really like that. I sold that quite quickly, actually. I bought it brand new, and then I think I used it for all of about a week and decided that I didn't like it, and sold it to one of my mates for a lot less than what I bought it for. So we got a really good deal out of it, but that's the way it goes back then, you know. Money didn't mean nothing back then, whereas today, you know, obviously you appreciate it far more. You realise, you know, sort of, I think you better understand the value of money. but back then we didn't. You know, it was buy something for £300. You know, a week later, £300 or £400. I can't remember what it was now, but then a week later, sort of like, yeah, I'll give you 150 quid for it. Yeah, nice one, mate. You know. And so that, yeah, it's just the way it was, and you know, I guess that was the way it was for everyone, you know. But yeah. I'll tell you what, boys and girls, we're chugging through this diesel pretty rapidly. I think this hill might have something to do with it. We're not going to be too long before we're going to be thinking about going back to the farm. And my my optimistic wish at the start of this live stream was, oh yes, by the time we get to the end of the day, I would definitely like to have been finished this field so that we could get it drilled. Well, we're not even going to get halfway through it by the end of the day, because the lights on this crawler are absolutely shocking, as you can see. So we ain't ploughing in the dark. We're not going to be ploughing in the dark because we won't be able to see anything. So yeah, we we could be here a few more days yet. I genuinely looked at the field, and like it was about 8 o'clock in the morning when I started the stream, or about 8:30, something like that. And I was sort of looking at this and I thought, yeah, we should be able to get this done by the end of the day. You know, we're just going to be continually moving, you know, sort of round and round and round and round. I thought, there's no reason why we can't do that at all. And yeah, I've suddenly realised actually we've got no chance. So it looks as if sorghum's going to be out of the question as well. So we're going to have to go with with either corn or soybeans, I think, because they're about the only two things that we're going to have left. Probably go for a second field of corn, to be fair. May as well. It's something a little bit different, because obviously we get quite a bit of combining with the combine with the wheat and the soybeans. So we've got the wheat field directly in front of us, and obviously we've got Harry's 3 fields as well. Or 4 fields, is it now? I think it might be 4 fields now for Harry. And then obviously we've got the soybeans in the field as we turn left here. So past the farm and then on the right, so the farm, those sheds that you see, and then just behind that end shed to the right is another soybean field. I've got my eye on another field, which is where we were doing the grass in the last episode. That field that's on that lane behind that, I'm thinking about buying that field as well, just so as we have a little bit more work, because again, you know, not only did I want to sort of try and, if I could, highlight the effort that went into 1950s farming, and that's, you know, why I deliberately chose a map with big fields. I also want to choose get a lot of fields as we go through, and you know, bear in mind as well that in the 50s, you know, yes, the government in 1950, well, I think it was 1948 when it was first introduced, and then sort of more widespread by 1950. When the government, you know, introduced the incentives to start farming, a lot of the people that took the incentives and started farming, you know, were in it for what they thought was going to be easy money, realised how hard farming was, and quickly left the industry. Well, of course, as they left and, you know, sold up, places like the dairy, and eventually Harry would do it too, but the place, you know, the dairy, which had been there, you know, sort of many years, you know, before the 50s, you know, that wasn't set up through the incentive. That was already there and working. I mean, you know, the father and the sons to the dairy went off to war, and only 2 two of them came back. I think, I'm not going to say with any certainty, but I think the father and one son came back, or it might have been two sons that came back. I can't remember which way around it was, but you know, that and so that business was there, you know, before all of that. And of course the one thing they were able to do, the same as today, was because they were well established, because they were already doing what they were doing and able to supply, you know, quite a decent amount of it, they were able to snap up, you know, fields and farms, mainly fields in the beginning, but eventually they would go on to start buying other farms too. So obviously the further away you get from sort of like your base farm, if you like, you know, they start to take on other farms, because it means when you're working, you know, that far away, and it's a bit like the farm I worked on. You know, when I joined we had 3 farms, all within no more than about 5 miles apart, or no, about 7 miles apart actually. So farm 1 and 2 were about 5 miles apart, but farm 3 was roughly about 7-8 miles away, because that was in Wisbech, whereas the other 2, one was in Long Sutton and one was in Sutton Bridge. And yeah, it was it was a good time, you know, for farms like the dairy, because they were able to buy. So us buying field, or me buying fields, like I'm doing at the moment, it helps to, again, you know, bring forward and highlight the struggle and the scale of farming in the 1950s, because of the smaller equipment. And whilst fields weren't typically this big in the 1950s, I think it's fairly, I mean, I don't know about America, I mean, maybe in America they were as big, but certainly in the UK they weren't as, you know, wouldn't have been as big as this. You know, I've seen pictures from farm 1 of the farm, you know, sort of in the 40s and the 50s, and a lot of the fields were, you know, sort of probably no more than about 10 acres, and a lot of them were in big fields. They'd be strips, you know, so you would have the, you know, what today they would farm as one field would be divided into, you know, maybe 2, maybe 3 fields, you know, back in the early times. So yeah, as I say, but that's the reason why I'm buying fields at the moment, is to try and again highlight that, you know, that that effort that went into farming back then. You know, when you don't have a 40-foot combine or combine header, you know, you don't have, you know, 10, 12, 18 metre cultivators. You know, it took a long time, and that's what I'm wanting to show, and hopefully I get it. Hopefully I do sort of do it a little bit of justice. I don't think you're ever going to get it, you know, sort of spot on completely, but you know, as long as I get somewhere near, and from the feedback that I get, you know, from quite a few people, I think I do get somewhere near to what I'm sort of aiming for, which is really good, you know. One of the sort of things my granddad did used to tell me, because like, as I say, in the late 80s I used to go and ride with him on his track marshal when he was ploughing, especially if he was ploughing behind the house where I lived. And so he would sort of, you know, we would be sat on the crawler or whatever, and we'd sort of, you know, chat about different things and what have you. And I remember him one time telling me, he goes, "You'll never appreciate, boy," he said, "with this lovely cab on here," he said, "how cold farming is." So I said, so I sort of looked at him and he was going, oh, in the winter time, mate. He said, I sit on that tractor because they had Ford Super Majors, sort of in the late 60s, 70s. And then by the time the 90s came around and Grandad had his track marshal, they had sort of David Brown's, like they had a 996, but before that they had an 885 David Brown. They had the can never remember is it the 770, the open cabbed one, which they had. And then moving into the 90s, they moved over to like the cab two-wheel ones, and then they had a 996 as well. And he sort of said, like, you know, in the winter time when I'm out on the tractor, or they had back in that day they had a caterpillar crawler, and he said I used to sit there. He said hessian sacks all wrapped around me, tarpaulin. He said trying to keep warm. He said, like, you know, sort of two massive coats on and different things. And I used to it always used to sort of, when he was telling me, you know, I didn't doubt it for a second, but it always sounded so fanciful. He was like, you know, sort of, I bet it weren't that cold. And the only sort of experience that I ever got of doing it was in the second year that I was working on Farm 1. The boss man came to me and said, it's a bit of an anniversary this year. So I was like, all right. He said, and I can't remember like it, but it was like, you know, sort of, I don't know, 30 something anniversary. And I think it was to when they got my granddad's crawler. Because my granddad's crawler was second hand. They had to, it basically didn't have an engine. It didn't like have this, that, and everything else, and he had to kind of, you know, basically rebuild it. And they got it for next to nothing because it was going to be scrapped. And the boss man said to me, he said, what we would really like, he said, is obviously you used to ride it with him as a kid. He said, is we'd really like this year. He said, like, Dad wants to do a video of the track marshal ploughing in the very first field that it ever ploughed. He said, and it'd be really nice because obviously your granddad was doing it, you know, sort of 30 or 40, whatever the period was. He said, and we'd really like you to plough it, you know, sort of this time round for the video. Because there is actually a video of my granddad again. It's really grainy and it's really dark, and you know, it's not of today's quality, but and you know, they said, like, you know, we'd like you to do it. So I was like, yeah, you know, I'd love to. Thinking they would do this video in the summer, you know, because obviously it was I mean, it was cabbed. I mean, I will give the track marshal, the old girl, that it did have a cab on it. But you know, bear in mind that summer I'd been driving like a John Deere 6620 tractor, and then, you know, sort of over summer period, occasionally we'd hire in a slightly bigger John Deere, whether it be wheel tractor or crawler tractor if they had one. And it was November when they wanted, because that was when the crawler was sort of ready to be used, and the plough, and they had the original plough, they had the original diesel Bowser that went around with the tractor, they had the original David Brown and the wooden sort of homemade flatbed trailer, to which John, who I worked with at the time, he sort of replaced all of the wood on it and made it sort of strong enough. And the idea was that I would come into work on my bike, because that's how my granddad used to go to work, on his bike. Come into work on my bike, and then I'd load the crawler up onto the tractor and get it greased, get it dieseled up, and it would be like a day in the life of, like, the video was back, you know, the years before. And honestly, it was absolutely awesome to do that video. And the one thing I remember was, because as I say, it was November, it was a Saturday as well in November, going to that original field, getting it all unloaded, sitting in the field, and the day itself had not been sort of too bad. Like the first half of the day, you know, sort of the sun had been out, it was all right. By the sort of afternoon, the sun had gone in, the wind had picked up. As far as I can remember, it didn't rain, but the wind had picked up, and it was sort of, you know, grey and overcast. And of course, the cab that you're working on, it's not sealed. It wasn't, you know, sort of wind tight, and the wind cutting through that cab. I was absolutely blooming frozen. I was absolutely frozen. Like, I just could not believe, even with a cab on, like how cold it was. And I remember sitting there thinking, Jesus, if Grandad was driving tractors with no cabs on, he weren't half kidding when he said it was cold. Well, yeah, I remember that. I'd say it was a nice thing to do. I wish I had that on DVD, because I mean, I've only got it on video now, and I can't play videos because I haven't got a video player anymore. So I wish I had. I suppose I could get someone to copy it over to for me, but yeah, it'd be really nice to put that video up as a video on the channel, because as I say, it was, you know, it was a lovely thing for the farm to suggest, and, you know, for me to be able to do. And, you know, a few of the old boys that worked on the farm back then sort of came out and had a look, and you know, people were walking, you know, sort of through the field, and, you know, right up with the ploughing and that. And it's like the boss man had said, like, we've got you know, we've told a few people they're coming up to see it, you know, try and plough it good. And I was like, could you not have let me have had a couple of days on it then, just to sort of kind of get used to it, because I've never blooming driven it before. And it was like, you know, well, you know, you'll be all right. And it wasn't perfect, but, you know, it was a good day. You know, it was a good day. Yeah, it wasn't the straightest I could have done, but funnily enough, actually, the following summer, I actually said to the farm, I said, like, you know, could I actually do, you know, a few fields on it, and to see whether I can actually teach myself to plough, you know, to plough straight with it. And they did actually let me do that. And I mean, again, you know, it wasn't perfect, but I was certainly getting the hang of it, because it was very odd to me to be using two separate levers and trying, you know, because obviously when you've got a steering wheel, you can feather it and just sort of, you know, and try and sort of keep it straight, whereas that was very yeah, that was very very different. And it was, you know, sort of a good skill to learn. And I would have liked to have excuse me, I would have liked to have you know, had longer and to be able to do a lot more of it. About a year ago, the farm put the track marshal up for sale, and I didn't see it straight away, and then I saw it, and I rang the boss man, and I said to him, right, I said, you can take it off for sale, I'll buy it. And he said, I'm ever so sorry. He said, I've just sold it. And I was like, I said, well, I said, you didn't come and tell me. And he said, well, he said, you know, not being funny, I didn't think you would want it or you could afford it. And I said, well, I said, it's history. I said, it's my... He said, what would you have done with it? I said, well, I would have asked you if I could have put it in the sheep field next to the road, built a plinth for it and had it stood out with his plough, you know, and maintained it. And then we could, like in the summertime, we could have done, you know, sort of ploughing days with it and that, and people could have come and seen it working and what have you. But yeah, he'd sold it. I was gutted. I was absolutely bloody gutted. I would have loved it. Like I say, they've still got the original David Brown as well, which is amazing. A lot of the old tractors from back then, like the Ford Super Majors and the Ford Major that they had, they've still got that. They've still got the three-wheeled John Deere tractor that they had, the one Alias Chalmers tractor that they had. They've still got that. They've all been restored. The Ford Super Major, or the Ford Super Dexter, and the Alias Chalmers and the John Deere, they've all been restored. The Field Marshal they've got, I think, has now been restored as well, which they kept. So I might actually ring the boss man and just ask him if I can go round, because he has them in one of the old sheds that they don't use no more, and he has them all sort of lined up and set out. I might just ask him if I can go and film it and put it on my channel if he'll let me, because it is a really nice collection in there, as I say, like, and he's got old implements as well, old trail ploughs a bit like this but smaller, like 3 for you know, sort of bottom ploughs. So yeah, he's got quite a good collection, and you know, probably you guys would be interested in seeing it, so I might ask him if I can go and record it. I mean, he might let me, he might not, but it's worth an ask, isn't it? Well, the two sides are certainly meeting up now, or about to. They're about to meet up now. Another 3 or 4 rows, or rounds, I guess. And we should be there. Has anyone had any issue with the stream buffering or cutting out? As a lot of people, or you know, some of you will know from the messages that I put up that yesterday my internet went down, which meant I couldn't do the live stream in the end. And then the internet was sorted out around lunchtime today, and obviously whilst I'm in game I can't see whether it's buffering or, you know, whether there's any sort of technical issues with it, but yeah, let me know if there is anything, or if the sound's not good. As far as I know, you know, the sound's been coming through okay. I do like the squeak from this crawler. Does sound like a real crawler. The track marshal that, like with my granddad, that used to have a squeak in the tracks. So I do like the inclusion of that in the mod. I see a new mod yesterday as well that I really like the look of as well, which is seagulls following while you're ploughing. For those of you that didn't see the video, Scroff did a showcase of it, and yeah, I'm sort of looking at that video, and I've often sort of thought that, you know, the game should have that sort of from the base game really, but yeah, that mod did look pretty cool. say Scruff was ploughing and the seagulls following behind. Definitely a nice addition to the game, especially because, like I say, I do a lot of ploughing in the game, and so it's nice to have, and it's nice that the person or people that are making the mod have given it so that there's options in the game menus, so that you can adjust it to kind of fit the style that you want it. Like, you can control the sound, you can there's a few other controls in there as well. I think the amount of birds that you get, I think that was in there, I can't remember now, but yeah, I see that yesterday. So I say, if you haven't seen it, go check that out after the stream, of course. I don't suddenly want the stream to empty with everyone going to check up on the mod recommendation, but yeah, it does look a nice addition to the game. I think it also does it as well when you're cultivating and when you're seeding. Now, I mean, obviously, I used to drill nearly all of the rape on Farm 2. I never really had seagulls following when I was drilling. I mean, yesterday Scruff said, like all the seagulls trying to get the seeds. Seagulls aren't really after seeds, seagulls are after worms, and the drill was low disturbance implement, and so you wouldn't really drag the worms up with it. Cultivating, yeah, I mean, I've had it when disking, especially when disking like pealand and vegland. I've had seagulls following the discs then, but ploughing is when, but as I say, I've never really had, I don't never remember them following me when I was drilling. I mean, if we were plough drilling, then again they would be behind the plough, so they'd be in the field while I was in there, but they wouldn't necessarily be following the drill, because obviously the drill compacts it down behind it, to cover the seed up. And the seagulls are not really after, I've never heard of seagulls going after seeds. Pigeons, now that I could believe that. We used to have huge issues with pigeons going after the seeds, but as I say, not really seagulls. But I mean, whatever. I mean, it's still a great mod and still a really good idea, and it just adds that little bit more texture to the game, doesn't it? That little bit more realism, that little bit more kind of immersive, lived-in feel, which Farming Sim does tractors very well, and machinery very well, but without sort of mods like that, without the other mods, it literally just feels like a bit of ground to play with tractors. But you get good mod maps like Oxygen David, Whitcomb Park, with the train, the people walking around, then you get the I think they said it was going to be called the Langle mod, I think, and then the other sort of what I call texture immersive mods in your mod folder, and suddenly the game does feel lived in. It feels sort of real. So I think it's really good, and like I say, just because I've done it again. I've turned too sharp. When Fen Edge gets released, another great map for the Seagull mod, that one. So you do get a lot of it in the fens, seagulls following the ploughs and that. So again, will look really good on there. I mean, sort of, it's quite nice, isn't it, that I think it's this year, isn't it, that the new game will get announced, I think. is it, or is it next year? Is it 3 years now? Can't remember. Can't remember. Is it still 2 years or every 3 years? But hopefully it'll be 3 years, because FS25 is just starting to slowly get interesting. It seemed, I don't know about you guys, but FS22, it seemed the mods took forever to come through, but as soon as they did, the game was kind of made great. But with FS25, the mods seemed to come through really quickly, but the game got left behind. I know Giants, took on way more than they could chew, with Project Cars and the fact that they released FS25 when it wasn't really finished. So sort of that didn't help the game, and that gave the game quite bad press early on, and I don't think really the game, in the opinion of a lot of people, has really changed all that much from then till now. Like I said, my opinion of FS25 is that it's slowly becoming the game that has probably got back near to the level that this game was when it kind of came to the end and FS25 got announced. I suppose that answers my question actually. 22 to 25, 3 years. So the new game will be next year. So yeah, and I've often said as well, like, why keep releasing a new game? Same game, just keep updating it with DLCs. That way no one loses any of their mods. Giants still get their money because everything comes through in DLCs. Like every time there's at the end of the year a new DLC comes out, there's always a map in there, and lots of equipment. So, and you don't lose none of the mods and machinery that you've got at the minute. I just think it would be a far better way of doing it. I mean, like Euro Truck do it, and they're not exactly struggling, are they? So they've kind of proved that concept does work, and it's kind of what I would, if I was anything to do with Giants, that's the way I would do it as well. I mean, the other thing with FS25, Giants put their fingers in so many different pies this year, with it, or last, sort of with this version of the game, with the VR game that got released, and then like all the other sort of sub things that they did, as well as FS25, and they just never really gave the game a fair chance. They should have had FS25 sorted out, done and dusted, and then kind of started to look at other side projects that could bring in a bit of extra money. Because I mean, I may be in a minority here, but the VR thing certainly doesn't interest me. Maybe it does other people, I don't know, and I certainly don't want to be speaking on behalf of other people that I don't know what they prefer and like and different things like that. So maybe there was a call for it, I don't know. I'll say this much: for all the people that did a video on it when it first came out, none of them are still releasing videos on it. So I think that kind of says everything that we need to know. Other farming games that I'm quite excited about this year, farmers, well, now it depends where you're from, how you say this, but this is where I'm from, the Fens, and this is how we say it. Farmers Dynasty 2 is coming out, but I know a lot of people say it's Dynasty, not Dynasty, which is fair. But yeah, Farmers Dynasty 2 is coming out, so I'm quite looking forward to that game. That seems a very good game. Unfortunately, my computer was at the repairers when the playtest got released. Otherwise, I would have done the playtest and I would have done some videos on it to sort of showcase. I have done a video on it already. I did a video on the demo, but I would have been able to have showcased quite a bit more. but yeah, so I quite like the look of that game. There was another game as well, and I've forgotten the name of it. So literally typical. I've been thinking about it the whole time while I've been talking about Farmer's Dynasty, and then it's sort I've come to sort of say, and then Farm Renovation or Farm Renovator or something like that it's called. That looks quite interesting as well, so it'd be interesting to see whether that game does actually make it. So that game was announced about a year ago, and then sort of didn't really hear no more of it. But I was going through Steam the other day looking for, you know, sort of other games to bring to the channel, and sort of farming based games, and that had a release quarter of, I'm sure it said quarter one, but it may have been quarter two. But yeah, so that game's coming. That looks quite interesting. I quite like the look of that. That would be something a little bit different for the channel as well. Obviously Farm Sim's not going anywhere, and we're going to be doing Farm Sim stuff. Like I say, I've got a series on Fen Edge coming up when that gets released. Rather than doing a series on Whitcomb, but I might just do a few videos on it, where we sort of do a harvest and some autumn work or whatever, and have a good explore of the map. Might do that, but I doubt there'll be a series on it, but who knows, I might do it in multiplayer again, but as I say, 1950s is going to be sort of well catered for both live streaming and series. Fen Edge, probably just a series, not necessarily a live stream. Montana, I'd quite like to do either a series on that or a series and live stream on that. I say, got Farmer's Dynasty coming up in a few months, and then that's as well as like sort of hopefully the trips that I'm going to do. The Race the Sun one, I'm really hopeful that I am okay and well enough to do that one. That really does appeal to me. The Race the Sun. I've never flown, so that's terrifying and exciting all in one. All in one go. And the furthest I've ever been anywhere on a train is London. When I go to like hospitals, and when I go to hospital, because my hospital's in London, and my heart team and that, so that's like the furthest I've been on the train. So the fact that, as I say, at sunrise we're going to fly to Aberdeen, and then get to Aberdeen, and then from Aberdeen airport go to the train station, catch the train from Aberdeen to Penzance, and then see if we can beat the sun setting in Penzance. And like I said earlier, we've got a probably about anywhere from sort of 40-minute to an hour window where that's going to be possible, but beyond that, that's sort of that window shut then. So I'm sort of looking forward to doing that. So yeah, the year looks, at the moment, the year looks fairly good. I'm not saying, then as well as that, I've got all my racing stuff that I do, but like I say, I don't tend to put a lot of that on the channel because I'm not overly convinced that an awful lot of people would be all that interested in it. But all that to go as well, so yeah, it should be good. Well, that hill is gradually going to be disappearing, which is good, because honestly, it's steep, man. It is steep. as you can see, we were keeping it fairly straight this side, which is good. I don't know why. I was sort of coming, when I came down I thought, oh yeah, the plough goes this way, so we'll drive, so I've messed up. I do apologise. I then suddenly got most of the way down the breed and I sort of thought, oh, I think actually the plough faces the other way, because I was coming down the other way when I was coming this side of the field. So yeah, I've messed up, I do apologise. So that's probably going to look a right mess now, but anyway, we'll persevere because we've got no choice. We're halfway down, but I'll sort it out when I get to the other end, because what we'll do is we'll go across and then split it again, and then plough around this bit, and then get to the end. I mean, we're not all that far from the end now, to be fair. Like, you can actually now see the verge of the other side of the field. So anyone that's going to message me and say you're ploughing the wrong way, you're not doing it properly, yeah, I've just realised the plough faced the other way. Never mind. Anyway, let's go down here and then we'll cut a breed through. If we go wide view, we'll try and judge it a bit. Definitely needs to be a nice wide area. You don't want to be sort of doing it sort of too short. This will do. Right, I'll just stop the tractor a minute. There we go. Concentration mode now, people. So basically all I'm doing to line up with the other end of the field is when I turned in, once I was satisfied that I was sort of pointing in the same direction straight down the field, I focused on something at the far end of that field and I'm now driving to it. And it takes practice to be driving at something that was dead in front of you to something that was looking like it was in front of you, but when you get there it was actually 3 or 4 feet to the side either way. Yeah, so I've basically, as I say, on the far end of the field, I've picked a point where I want to come out at, and then hopefully that'll be straight. Doesn't always work out like that, but that's how I used to do it in real life. Yeah, so that's how I used to do it in real life. We're not too bad. I'm probably a little bit off from what I was aiming for, but yeah, that's say in real life that's how I used to do it. Just sit at one end of the field, pick a mark the other end, and then just drive to it. Later on in my farming career, I built myself a marker board where with flashing lights, and what I used to do was drive to one end of the field, place the marker board in where I wanted to sort of go across the field, and then drive to the other end and then drive to that marker board. That was another way of doing it. But there are lots of different ways for people to do it. I mean, the other thing I could have done was just followed the line through the field with the potatoes. Look, there's a line in the field which I didn't notice until just now, but I could have done that, and again that would have been a straight line to the end of the field. But well, I don't look like we did too bad. But yeah, so that's all I'd kind of do is sit at one end, pick a mark at the other end, and then just drive to it. And hope it all works out, and it did work out, so that's good. And it worked out even better as well, because somehow I managed to hit the where the field goes from long to short. So now if we just plough around this way, that means we'll get this block done, and then I'll just have that little block there to do, but that'll all be one length, which will be nice for turning around on the end. So yeah, it's for once worked out very nicely. Oh well, it didn't do too bad ploughing the wrong way round, coming down this way. It's not done too bad, so we'll probably be able to straighten this up. What I do need is I don't know if you guys have seen it for FS25, but the swivel plough that's come out, honestly, that is the future. That is the future of ploughing. Never mind about European turnover ploughs. The swivel plough is an absolutely awesome invention. It probably wouldn't necessarily work in the UK, because I think they're probably wider than 3 meters, and you're only allowed to travel down the road with 3 meter or narrower implements. You can't have anything wider. Has to be carried on a trailer. But yeah, I'd say I downloaded it, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago, and used it, maybe a week ago actually, and used it, and it was blooming awesome. Absolutely fantastic. Such a great idea. Really good ease of use. Yeah, honestly, it was fantastic. Really enjoy, and I could do with it here, although probably in 1950 the swivel plough hadn't been introduced or invented by then. But I mean, I don't know, there might be early iterations of the plough, but yeah, it definitely make things nice and easy for me with this crawler, just to be going up and down. As you see with the turn there of the field, the fact that we came right down on that, bang on, was a really nice surprise. And not only that as well, it's made life nice and easy, because we can then just plough round and round that bit. And the other thing to that is that we might even be able to be, I don't know how wide, it's a little bit too wide. Oh, it goes round again. Oh, okay. Yeah, scrap what I've just said. We'll have to hit it again, a bit further over. What I was going to say was we might be able to plough that as a headland, and just plough all the way around the field and plough the headlands, and that will plough that off. But as you can see, it goes a bit further over still, so we're not as near to the end as what I thought. Never mind. Well, it's a cloudy old day now, the sun's gone in. For those of you that are watching the stream that may have been to Great Yarmouth, but and been on the snails, when we came over that hill and then dropped down, that's what made me think of them. For those of you that have experienced it, that is what that feels like. Although on the Great Yarmouth ride, when you come over the crest and then go firing down the hill, you then hit loads of little hills that go up and down. God, I used to love that as a kid. I used to love that ride as a kid. The snails. She certainly spews out some black smoke when we're going over that hill. I would say that's a fairly successful afternoon's amount of ploughing so far. Sorry about that, I don't know why my phone decided to go off there. Especially seeing as I'd put it onto silent. It's not going to be long before we've joined up to the left side again. And then, as I say, we've just got that bit to do then, which is pretty good. And then that will be virtually this field ploughed, which is very good. Pardon me. My tummy is still grumbling. Turned in far too soon then. That's mucked up that corner. Or not the corner, but the entrance to the breed. I turned in far too early. Boy oh boy, does this poor old girl struggle with this hill. I don't know what she's quite going to make of the seed drill, or what the three-wheel John Deere tractors would make of it with the crawler, with the cultivator, sorry, not the crawler. I'm afraid the gap for that headland is all over the place. We've got down the far end there quite a big gap, as you can see, and then this end we've got hardly any gap. So I didn't didn't judge that right, did I? We'll probably find the same this end as well. Actually, the entrance that time actually wasn't too bad from the last time when I turned in earlier. It still seemed fairly square, so that wasn't too bad. I should give myself more credit. think we'll get these two sides joined up and then see where we're at, because it isn't going to be long before I'm going to get the knock on the door. But we should have a little bit more time, and as I say, we should hopefully have the time to join these two sides together, and that will be a pretty successful day's ploughing, I think. Also, as well on the game, is getting 5:30, so as soon as we start to lose the daylight, I'm not going to be able to do too much more ploughing anyway, because as I said and showed earlier, the lights on the old girl are not very good, as they weren't back in the day, so it's, you know, not an issue. I mean, lights were so poor back then that my friend Ray used to say to me that you know, a lot of tractors didn't come with them. They would have like the standard headlights, but you know, work lights was fairly unheard of. And as he says, you know, they weren't that good anyway, so he said it wasn't like he missed them. And it isn't going to be also too long before we're going to soon need to think about diesel. And when I filled the tractor up in the yard, I think, if I remember correctly, I think the Bowser that I used was empty. Oh dear. I think last night, oh, I've just squashed the bird. that bird couldn't have had more terrible timing if it had tried. Literally landed and then got squished by my truck. Oh dear. It reminds me of a story. I was ploughing one year, and I was going up and down, and a bit like we was talking a little while ago with the seagull mod. I was sort of ploughing and the seagulls was following me. Anyway, I was going up and down, and I liked to see it, but at the same time they were crapping all over my tractor, which really wasn't making me very happy, because if I remember correctly, it was sort of early autumn, and my ploughing tractor never came out for the harvest. So if we got like a wet weekend or a wet day, or, you know, whatever, but a day where we weren't out on the fields or weren't doing anything, my ploughing tractor, or as I used to call it, my autumn tractor, I used to really polish it up and make it look really nice, get the plough sorted out, you know, what have you. And as I say, I did quite like seeing the seagulls following the plough, because it really gave you that kind of farming autumn kind of vibe, you know. It was sort of really good, especially if Justin Hayward's Forever Autumn would come on the radio as well. I don't know, it was very atmospheric. Anyway, this one particular day I was going up and down, the seagulls flying around everywhere, crapping all over my tractor that was you know, sort of newly polished and newly cleaned, ready for the autumn work. And as I was coming down the breed, there was a seagull in the furrow, and I was ploughing in the furrow, because I was on my John Deere wheel tractor, ploughing the furrow, and as I was coming towards it, I was like, you're going to have to move, young man, because otherwise you're going to get squished, because I ain't stopping. And thinking that this seagull would fly off. Anyway, this seagull just stayed there and stayed there, stayed there, stayed there. And I thought, well, I'm not stopping. I thought, like, you know, you either get out of the furrow or you know, I'll just go over the top of you. Like, I'm not stopping. And it was only when I got sort of so far near to it that I realised that what had happened was the seagull had been in the furrow. He'd obviously been picking out the worms or whatever, but a lump of clod had rolled down and had trapped his wing to the ground, and he couldn't move. I mean, it was quite a significant, you know, size bit of mud that had, or clod that had, you know, sort of come down. And so I stopped because I thought, well, you know, you can't run over something that can't get away. You know, you're gonna have to help it because it's stuck. You know, it's sort of not playing there with you. You know, you can't. So I got out, and all the other seagulls kind of like settled on the floor. What's he gonna do? I picked up my hoe because I sort of kind of didn't want to go near it with my hands in case it sort of ripped my hands to shreds. And I'm sort of going towards it. It had this really kind of worried look on its face, and I managed to get the hoe sort of kind of through the, you know, underneath the, or so as it would grip the clod to get it off the wing, and the seagull sort of got free and sort of stood there for a few seconds, sort of, you know, shaking and flapping its wings. And then it sort of hopped up, and then it sort of stayed on the ground. So I sort of stood looking at it for a few seconds, just kind of make sure it was okay. But it was still in the way of the wheel that was on the land. So I sort of kind of tried to shoosh him off and to get him out of the way completely. And anyway, got back in my tractor, started the tractor up, and then started driving. And obviously he kind of sort of ran off, I think, or you know, sort of flew a little bit over to get out of the way. But literally for the rest of that day, that seagull, when he flew out of the way, he then sort of flew up and sat on my rear mudguard on the tractor and literally just went up and down with me all day, which was quite something, because it kind of like, you begin to realise that actually animals are not really as dumb as what we think. They do kind of understand, and they appreciate when, you know, we help them out, and we, like I say, I mean, if I hadn't have been stuck, you know, I would have just kept going, because it's like, you've got to get out of the way. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm not waiting around for every single seagull to move. But because he was trapped, because he was actually, you know, being held in place, I thought, nah, that's not fair game then, like, because he got no choice, he can't get away. So I say we got out and we helped it, and yeah, for the rest of that day, it sort of just rid either on or in and around the tractor, but it did not leave the tractor. I mean, whether it came back the next day when I was ploughing, who knows, because they all look the same, but I just knew that day that it was the same one because, you know, of its behaviour when I sort of untrapped it, or set it free, I suppose, from the clod that was holding it down. But yeah, it was quite a thing. But as I say, the next day I didn't have no seagulls riding on the tractor, and it could well have been there, it might not have, I don't know, because like I say, all the seagulls look the same in the end, don't they? But just for that day, as I say, it was quite a thing that this seagull had recognised what I'd sort of done to help it, and you know, sort of in its own way sort of repaid me by you know, sort of probably still crapping all over my tractor, which was very nice of it, but as I say, just sort of rode on the rear mudguard, or on the bonnet, or wherever, like on the bonnet. Reminds me of at the time, I was when I met my first sort of what turned out to be first long-term girlfriend, and because I'd been, you know, a young single man obviously before I met her, and because a lot of the magazines in my room were, you know, sort of scantily clad women on bonnets of cars and what have you. Anyway, I can't remember what, I think we was on holiday one year, and it was, you know, a nice hot day, and we was sort of in the chalet getting ready to go out to the beach. It was in early in the morning. It was probably about like 8, 8:30, and I came out of the chalet, and there she was in her bloody like sort of bikini, laying across the bonnet of the car, winking at me, and I said, "Love, what are you doing?" And she was like, she goes, "Oh, all the pictures in your magazines are of the women laying." I was like, "Get off the car, love, and put some bloody clothes on, will you?" she goes, "I thought you'd like that." I was like, "No, get off the car. You'll bloody scratch it." I have a feeling that story may have been funny at the time, but we had a good old giggle of it when I was like, when we was like at the beach, I was like, "Well, I suppose nerve possessed you to do it." She goes, "Oh," she said, like, "You know, the pictures in your magazine said like of women, you know, scantily clad women, you know, sprawled across the bonnets of cars," and she said, like, "You seem to like that." I said, "I like it because it's not my car." I said, "Or my girl." I said, like, you know, I said, like, Jesus. I said, like, talk about advertising yourself. She's like, "I'll give over." She said, "I did it for you, no one else." And it's like, "Put some bloody clothes on, love." Yeah, those were the days. Oh dear, I sound to her, "Well, those were the days back then, back in my day." Dear. We've only got a few more breeds now around, and then we should we should be nicely met up then with the left hand side bit there. And so we are getting round quite nicely, to be fair. Had I have started a couple of hours earlier in terms of computer time, we may well have got this ploughed in one day, you know. But we'll wait and see in the next episode for 1950s. If we don't get the ploughing done, then the end bit of the ploughing will be finished. Just depends on whether sort of people want to see that or not. But we've also got the animals, the cows, to feed back at the yard, because they're not out of food at the moment, but they are virtually out of food. And then obviously we've also got the cultivating and drilling of this field to do. One thing that has come to mind, we might need to buy another bin. We might not have storage capacity now for the silo bin, so we might need to buy another bin, or another couple of bins probably wouldn't go amiss, because like I say, there's another field down near the grass field that we've got that I want to buy as well. So I want to buy that field as well, and then that'll be it then for a couple of years for the dairy farm, and then I might buy Harry a couple of new fields, and then as I say, that will kind of be it then until we can upgrade the machinery a little bit. Like I said, the 60s are coming. You know, it isn't going to be you know, what is it, 4 years, so it isn't going to take too long, especially as I am going to you know, for quite a long time I am going to bash this series out a little bit with the live streams and the episodes and what have you, and I'm going to do I was half tempted to do this purely as a live stream series from now on, so that people can see that I do genuinely do the work, you know, the way that it should be done, and that I don't sort of cheat it off camera. But there's a lot of people that watch this series that will work that won't ever get the chance to watch 1950s Farm, as in the live stream version. And oh dear, James, I've messed that right up. Everyone ignore what I've just done. That was partly because I just got a text come through on my phone, and I'll read you the text. Hi, I know you're busy. Your tea's going to be ready in 5 minutes. So yeah, so I was kind of sort of looking at that and trying to drive at the same time. Why, people, you should never use your phones while you're driving, even in the computer game. But yeah, so I don't know if yours ever does this. She'll text you, which will tell you what's going on, and then they'll come through and tell you. And it's like, I know you text me, and it's like, yeah, I know, but I just thought I'd come and tell you. You already told me. Yeah, but I thought I'd come and tell you in person. Or why did you bother texting me? But yeah, so I am going to have to leave the stream here, guys, because as I say, my tea is ready. So thanks everyone everyone that joined me this afternoon on the live stream. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. And as I say, we'll look to get I may do the rest of it in an episode, or I may just do it and finish it tonight off camera. And then when we come back, we've got the animals to feed, and we've also got the drilling of this field. But as I say, I am going to leave it here. So thanks ever so much for watching. I've really enjoyed having your company with me this afternoon. Thanks to everyone that got in touch via the chat. I really appreciate that as well. It's really good talking to people and hearing different stories and their experiences. So thank you all for that, and I'll see you again. Bye for now.